and I'm going to be kind of guiding you through the next 90 minutes. It's a bit experimental because that's sort of how I work. So hopefully no one will get hurt. It's very safe, and I encourage you all just to sort of go with it, really. Just to start off, could we stand up? Would everyone just stand up? And maybe just sort of get on the rows that you're in. Just get close to each other. You're also touching each other's shoulders. Yeah? Okay. Now maybe if you could maybe, that's right, you're touching shoulders right now. If you could all turn to your left. Right? Okay. Turn to your left. And now if you could all just put your hands on the shoulders of the person right, just give them a little bit of a massage. Your shoulders. Yeah. I got it. Turn the other way, turn right, and we can give the love back. Awesome. That feels good. Again, can you turn back round again now? Stay standing, one more minute. Okay, so now, what I wanted just as we sort of, phase out of Yella's amazing talk. How amazing was that? It was just like, you're like, everyone else is just fucked against them, aren't they? It's like really difficult to be a business. But I thought just as we sort of segue, we're going to sort of phase into this session. Yeah. I just thought, just to ground ourselves again, right? Because so just the invitation for the next minute is just put your hand on your heart, your left hand on your heart, and the other hand on your belly. And just kind of, if you'd like to, just shut your eyes. You don't have to. And again, just sort of breathe in through the nose, breathe out, maybe 3 times. Big breaths. And again. And we're just going to stay like this, just for sort of 50 seconds or so. I don't know how your heart's beating, but mine's beating quite fast. Amazing. So you can open your eyes, hopefully feeling a little bit more grounded. And we can take a seat. Don't know what about the projector. It's coming? I can ignore the projector. Okay. I'm going to jump a bit between here and there. I'm 50. I've got 3 kids and a dog. I can't remember what happened this morning, so sometimes I need a few notes. We're going to spend about 30 minutes or so in this room, and then we're going to, the invitation is we're going to go outside, as long as it's not absolutely tipping down. We're going to spend a little bit of time outside, so I hope everyone got the memo on the jackets and stuff. I'll explain more about that later, but yeah, part of this session is to really, and I guess the invitation for the next couple of days is to sort of tune in a little bit more into yourself, what's going on in you at the moment. And I would say, like, a lot of the work that I'm doing now is trying to work more with people and their real kind of, what's the questions we're carrying? What's the stories that we're wanting to move into? Yella talks a lot about stories. I'm really interested in how do we become the stories that we we actually start to move into them in how we show up every day. So that's what we're going to talk about a little bit. And we're going to do, let's say, look, we're going to do some walking. We might do some sitting. I've got a load of bin bags actually. Anyone wants to sit on them when we go outside. But we're going to do a little bit of time out in our sort of with our more than human family out there. We're going to tune in a little bit, and then we're going to do we're going to invite you to just some playful little creative exercises, things we're going to do together till lunchtime. So, see if this works. Yeah. So here we are, on top of this cliff in Cornwall, in this place, in this moment, in these times. And what times they are. I've been calling them mysterious times because I think it helps me anyway see things more expansively, see that there's possibility maybe through these times, because they can be overwhelming. But what a time to be alive. Joanna Macy calls this time the great unravelling, the sort of breaking down of the industrial paradigm. There's like a sort of decaying, a sort of falling apart of a lot of what we thought was fixed and normal. And we see it in our human systems, our institutions, our politics, but we also see it in the living world, in nature. We see it with climate, we see it with ecology, we see it in human health. Ben spoke a bit, it's going to do more of that tomorrow, but there's many people, myself included, that feel that these are all interconnected. They're all interconnected problems. Because if we think about this idea that human health and the health of the planet are completely entangled, they're intimately connected. So we can't really have one without the other. We can't have this healthy planet if we have humans that are depressed, autoimmune diseases, anxiety, all these kind of tensions that are going on. So it's interesting times, and you see the brokenness in the systems. You see the brokenness. I mean, in this country, let's not get too stuck into this, but you can see a brokenness, a divisiveness, an inability to a stuckness almost. These hierarchical systems and institutions, and you can see that life wants to open up. That's what life does. It opens up, but we're holding on to these structures. So how do you face into that? How do we face into all of that? Because at the same time, what I see in my work and my journey over the years is extraordinary things going on as well, right? Extraordinary things going on the ground, everywhere, all over this planet. There are amazing people showing what could be, showing what is possible. And so I think that's what we're being called to do, is to hold these different realities, because they're both real. And we have to hold those, and that's really tough. That's a real challenge, to hold on to that complexity. So I fell down a climate change hole in 2006, and I've never really come back up. And a lot of my work really has been, I pulled this together. I was thinking, like, God, it's actually during the pandemic where I was able to stop a little bit, not completely, because I didn't get any, what's it called, furloughs. We didn't get furloughs if you work yourself, so you had to sort of keep going, but I slowed down, and I was trying to look back at like what the last sort of 6-7 years in particular, a lot of my work has been working at the edges. It's always working at the edges of kind of what it feels like the world, what the living earth is screaming at us to do, and where culture and creativity and business and community, what's going on there. So I tend to sort of operate in between. Work with commercial organisations, NGOs, campaigners, activist groups, creative networks, place-based communities. It's quite exhausting, but it's enabled me to see the problems from many different perspectives. So I've worked with some amazing people over the years, and I've put a lot of things out into the world. Some, I would call them sort of radical experiments, interventions, things that get people thinking about our relationship to the living earth, our relationship to each other, and challenging some of the stories that are so deeply ingrained, stories in our culture that we live by. And sometimes we don't even know them, they're so deeply ingrained. And 2018, I started this podcast, Spaceship Earth podcast, and it was really as a way for me to try and, I've been trying to sort of reflect on what's been going on. I've been trying to slow down a bit, and I was finding a lot of this outward work, this outward change work. I was starting to think, well, actually, is it useful? Does it work? Why is nothing meaningful seeming to shift? What is it that's still stopping? And the conversations I started to have, again, with people that were starting to sort of create the future in a different way. Small, sometimes very, just starting. It's called, actually technically known as prefigurative action. When you start to build the future you dream of in the kind of husks, the rotting husks of the decaying systems that we're part of. Okay, so it's like rather than just being oppositional all the time, challenging the system, how do we start to build the new? You need all of it. But I really do believe in, this idea that, and that's where my work has been going over the last couple of years, is how do we navigate these times? How do we sort of allow ourselves to move through them? Because they can be so overwhelming. And I think, along with many others, that this civilizational story, really, a story which started with colonialism, really, about 500 years ago, which has brought us to a very extractive, unfettered capitalism, elitism, a story of extraction, domination, hierarchy, all based on hierarchy, control, a lot of oppression that sits under these systems that we don't see. And as I'm a white man, 50 years old, what I've witnessed is only one part of the story, right, through my privilege. But there's the majority of people on this earth have been living a very different story to the story that a lot of us have experienced. And so this idea of accumulation, of no limits, have this idea in our modern culture, there's no limits, just whatever we want, keep going, no limits to anything. And of course, the more you look at the living earth, the more you look at the natural world, of course there's a different operating system. There are limits. And there's a lot of cooperation. And actually life actually works through community, cooperation, diversity. That's how the living world, there is some competition, but the majority of it is cooperation. It's diversity, it's community. So you think of that, you think of how the qualities that we have in our systems, we don't see that so much. The qualities of diversity, the qualities of cooperation, of community, they're much more hidden. So we're living, I think, it's worth saying we are, Yella set it up as well, we're living in really dangerous times, because, if you look at the Earth system science particularly, and the climate science, it's if you're not terrified, you're not paying any attention, So it's not getting locked into that, but it's being aware of it. World leaders, powerful institutions, corporations, they're playing with fire, is what's going on. Because what happens when the Earth passes its tipping limits? And we have no idea. It's so beyond what humans can deal with. So we have to take this really seriously in how we show up. And it's painful, it's frightening, it's disorienting, and sometimes it's overwhelming. And I have all those feelings all the time. But at the same time, sometimes I can get so blown away by the awe, just the awe of life, of just being alive, being on this earth, and seeing what is possible, and seeing how life works, and seeing how most people, the majority of humans, I think, are beautiful people. They want, they're social creatures. We want to look after each other. We're creative. We're empathic. But the culture, the society, the systems doesn't really encourage that. So I guess what I'm saying is, how do we evolve ourselves? How do we evolve ourselves? Because when I look at change more and more, we talk about system change, and we talk about transformation of systems. And the IPCC report says transformation is required at every level of society. What I'm interested in is personal transformation and community transformation. Because that feels like that's within us, that's possible. We have agency to evolve ourselves. We have agency to evolve people around us. So I think we're in this kind of lost phase in the human story. I think we're coming to the end of this story. You know, you've heard people talk about the story of separation. Humans separate from nature. Nature's over there. It's not part of us. You know, that story of separation. We've built this civilization on that story, that we're separate from the earth. And over time we've said we're separate from each other. You know, we're just born as individuals to compete with each other. And what's interesting is this emerging story now of interconnection, of interbeing, of that all life is actually entangled in relationship with something else. And of course that's a story that our ancient ancestors and our indigenous brothers and sisters have always known. But now Western science has proved it. So, you know, we're starting to see actually, yeah, the indigenous science was right, you know, that we're in relationship. You know, nothing exists alone. Nothing in our bodies exists alone. Nothing in the world can exist unless it's in relationship. So I think that's really interesting, that there is this mystery as well, this unknowable intelligence in the world we have not made. And that's why we think of sort of this idea of mysterious times. So, there's a project I co-authored in 2020 called Stories for Life. And what Stories for Life was trying to do was to look at the power of stories and narratives that are in our cultures and our societies. You know, they're powerful technologies. They shape the world. They actually inform how we think, how we make sense of stuff. But critically, they inform how we design things, how we design human systems. So this story of separation, this narrative that we're separate from nature, that's how we built this current civilization. Everything comes from that. You know, the technology, the policies, everything is designed from that story. So if we want to transform, want to shift, we have to think about the stories that we're working with. So I'm kind of interested in this idea of what if we're being called to let go of stories? Old stories that no longer serve us, that divide us, that destroy life. And we step into the new ones to help navigate the future. But I'm going to add another dimension, because I think what this breakdown is calling for is not just new stories to live by, but I don't think we can't just tell these stories. We can't just have them in our heads. We can't think our way into the future. We can't sort of message it, you know. Joanna Macy, and she said, the future is inside us, which I thought was interesting, you know. So what if we're being called to become these stories, to embody them, to carry them, you know, and evolve ourselves through them? And what if that meant connecting with our true selves, our authentic selves, surfacing our true gifts? You know, mythology says we're born with a gift inside. It's already there. It just needs to crack open. Right? But our culture, our society tells us it's out there. You've got to look out there. What am I going to do? Who am I going to be? We're always told to look out. But what if it's in us? And what if community can help us? And what if we could work together in communities to help us find our gifts, connect with them? And what if the natural world was really our teacher and our learner, and a place for us to really build these relationships? Okay, so I'm going to do a little bit of performance now, which is right on my edge. And it's one story. It's one story. And I note one because I believe we're not looking for sort of prescriptions now. We're not looking for, oh, what's the new story? I think we need millions of stories. I think our culture needs to be bubbling with like all sorts of different flavours. And I think if they can orient in the same direction, which is life-sustaining cultures. Stories that are taking us towards life-sustaining, where we measure success by the well-being of all life. Right? Humans and ecological, and ourselves included. How well are we? You know, that's the story. So I'm going to share a thing. It's called Becoming Crew. Okay, bear with me because I'm going to be doing this over a track. Now it's 10 minutes, and it's from a podcast that I released, which is 26 minutes long, which you can listen to another time if you're interested after this. You might go, this is really weird. Okay, I did write this, but I'm going to use a script. Okay, hold on. Okay, here we go. This is us, all of us, right there. Everyone and everything that ever was, every species we know of, every bit of history we were told, every story ever shared happened on here. We live here on this life-giving rock called Earth, hurtling through space. Wow. Like a spaceship, we have a finite amount of supplies with an intelligent operating system that keeps everything replenished as long as we respect it and use it wisely. The analogy of the Earth as a spaceship is well documented. Bucky Fuller said we're all astronauts. Marshall McLuhan said we're all crew. It's fascinating. This idea of crew spoke of adventure, community, participation, co-creation, and being in service to something bigger and mysterious. But once I began to dig more deeply, it appears that our current human mode on spaceship Earth is in fact a passenger one. You see, passengers are distracted. We don't notice much. We're always rushing around, no time to pause and reflect, not aware of others. Passengers are quite entitled. We expect and demand a lot. Passengers are often greedy. We want more and bigger and better. Passengers are messy. We create a lot of waste and expect others to clear it up. Passengers are passive. Someone else is at the wheel. We're not looking where we're going. We're not aware of what's coming down the line. The passenger story is based on extraction, transaction, and distraction, while the crew story is based on connection, cooperation, and participation. Because it seems that the actual crew on Spaceship Earth right now, keeping us flying a healthy planet, are the more than human. Yeah, nature is currently flying the spaceship. A vast, diverse web of species, ecosystems, and living places, an extraordinary array of intimate relationships and interdependence, which in its total wholeness and unknowable complexity co-creates the conditions for all life. Let's look quickly at 3 crew from our more than human family to see this in action. Think of these 3 species: the whale, the krill, and the phytoplankton. Each of these is stunningly different, unique, and diverse. Now, let's look at what happens through them. Some refer to this as the poop loop. The whale is doing awesome dives, singing incredible songs, and generally living life large. Feasting on krill, and through that begins to poop. Highly nutritious poop into the ocean, like a great big ocean composter. And here is the phytoplankton, a micro plant algae with extraordinary, slightly geeky innovation and scientific capacities that snacks on the whale poop and also sucks CO2 out of the atmosphere and produces oxygen. Not just a bit, but at least 50% of the oxygen we all breathe. Every second breath you take down to these creatures. And then here come the krill, just krilling around, munching on the phytoplankton. And then the whales eat the krill. The whales then sequester all the carbon dioxide into their bodies, and when they die, they take that down onto the ocean floor. At a species level, we're talking millions of tons of carbon. This is a circular economy like no other. Radically diverse, beautifully weird individuals, each with their own unique gifts, living their own story, but in meaningful relationship, connection, and cooperation with other life around them, with life not like them. working together to create the conditions that benefit everyone. All life, the whole, now and way into the future, truly in service to life. Powered by reciprocity, generosity. That's right, it's all a gift. No one gets paid any money and no one's told what to do. But everyone has what they need to flourish. Radical, spontaneous cooperation. What if we applied this level of creativity, care and cooperation to reimagine our human systems and ways of organising ourselves on this earth so that we bring life back, we bring love back, we bring health back to ourselves, to each other, to our communities, to nature, to the more than human world, to our Earth systems, the vital organs of our one and only planet Earth to which we all belong. Can you imagine being part of that story? Yes! So what can we learn from our more than human family to help us navigate a way forward in these mysterious times? Here's 3 things I've observed for starters. Love as a guiding principle. Not in a romantic way, but attention, connection, curiosity for all life, empathy, care, and critically, in these times, courage for spontaneity and trust, and confronting our fears, differences, and vulnerabilities together. Putting the young at the centre, all more than human life, appears to put the young at the centre of everything. To listen to, nurture, and protect the young seems to be the core foundational practice of all species. Imagine what might happen if we really listen to our young and put their dreams and visions at the centre in these times, especially the indigenous and marginalised, who've suffered the most from the story of separation and from whom we can learn so much. Cycles of life. Everything exists with cycle and pattern. Seasons, solar cycles, lunar phases, tides, ebbs and flows. Nothing, apart from the modern human, attempts to move at warp speed and continuous eternal growth. What if we slowed down, letting go of our fossil-fueled speed addictions, and began to sync with the great rhythms and patterns of this earth that have always informed and guided life? And the most important cycle: birth, death, and renewal. Things are born, they die, and they become compost for the new. We need some things to die right now. Stories, behaviours, systems, industries that are destroying life and dividing us. Imagine if we did that with compassion and respect, not judgment and blame. What might emerge from the compost? None of this requires any new technology. It's in us already. And it's 100% renewable. So the invitation I leave you with, especially for those of us in the global north who've been flying business class on Spaceship Earth for too long, is to step into service and help bring life back on our home planet. Wherever you live, becoming crew on Spaceship Earth, where the only real things you need to consider are what happens through you and who or what will you become. That's it, that's that. I've done that once before at a little festival in summer, and I kept going faster than the soundtrack. It was just like, it wasn't, so that felt, yeah. But anyway, thank you for listening to that. If you want to listen to the full episode, dig in. So, yeah, so I guess what I'm saying is we're going to start to do some things soon, which will be interesting to see what's come up for you all with that. But this idea of transformation, right? This idea that, we talk of system change, system transformation, but what if that can only happen through individual and collective transformation? And what if that is the work of these times, to involve ourselves in community, because it's all about working with community, and with our more than human family. They're two extraordinary support systems and teachers when we share and work with other people, when we spend more time deepening our connection to life itself. That can really help us find our own story and bring it to life and really focus it. Because I think we need, that the world is calling for all of our uniqueness in these times. So the work I'm doing with Becoming Crew is we work with all kinds of people, organisations, teams, and go on these learning journeys, and we work with our most alive questions. And so my other thing I'd say to you is that maybe by the end of these 2 days, maybe you might have a very alive question yourself. And often the alive question can come through something that's speaking to you, something that feels uncomfortable is often a good place to go to. Transformation requires uncomfort, which is kind of a really odd one as well, because we don't like uncomfortable things, but actually, if you can sometimes go where the uncomfort is, amazing things can happen. So what I'd like to do, is everyone up for going outside?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay, look, the sun is out. Amazing.
Don't say that, it'll go.
Oh no, sorry, right. So what I think we should do is, there's a little lawn down here. I don't know if you can see it. I mean, we can all go out, but if the people need to get stuff, or is everyone able to leave from here? Okay. So maybe if people need to get stuff, could you a couple of minutes just go and grab it, right? And then what we're going to do is we're going to go head down to the lawn out here. We're going to gather there in a circle, and I'm going to brief you up on a couple of little missions. Okay? And don't need anything. Don't take notebooks. Don't take, because this is all about this. Let's get rid of all of our distractions, right? So we're going to come back. Oh yes. Okay, everyone, actually, if we all go out en masse, so whoever needs to get a jacket, go and get it and come back here, and then we'll all leave from here. So just stay in the room.